Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Torchlight 2. We are still in this Lost Hold place, which, as I've said last time, I don't believe I've ever explored this dungeon, so let's see if interesting things will happen inside. Okay. I should just sort of remember my build a little, not just spam right click, because I've got hailstorms. I think Dragon Rift was a set, right? Still keeping set pieces for the transmuting guy to change set pieces into other set pieces. And also because the game was on sale at Steam, I invested the €3 something to have the Steam version as well. But I'm currently still playing the sort of the Runic DRM version. Go away. Dragon Rift was a set. Just want to make sure, yeah. I believe it should be fairly easy to transfer save files between the two versions, but just in case something would go wrong, which you never know, sometimes it's just a little weird and it decides, you know what, we don't want you to import pre-made characters or whatever. Now it shouldn't do that, it should be possible. I know others have done it, so again, I wouldn't expect any trouble, but just because if trouble were to come along, I might just lose the save file if I'm really careless. I decided, you know what, there's no real advantages to the Steam version, except for achievements, which, yeah, fine, I would maybe get some achievements, but who really cares? And just in case something doesn't work out, I just didn't want to do it, so yeah. Still running the Runic version. Not that it really actually matters, as I've said. The versions are identical in terms of gameplay. Steam just gives you achievements, and I think I get my save games get put into the cloud as well. But really, that's the only major difference. I think it has workshop support, so you have slightly easier access to mods, and it might be that some mods only exist on the Steam workshop and not freely downloadable on the internet. But the mods I do actually use, the camera distance one and the render distance one, those obviously do exist freely on the internet. So yeah, doesn't really matter. And for about €4, a little less, you can't really go wrong very much. And it's nice to have all your games in one central location. And as long as Steam doesn't seem like it's going out of business anytime soon, which at least I don't think it is. I don't think there's any downside to having your games on Steam. It's pretty nice to be able to just carry them over if you're reinstalling. You don't have to deal with the limited activations that you sometimes do with third-party DRM. I don't believe Runic actually does that. It's fairly liberal in that respect, but you know, sometimes you get that sort of thing where they say, oh, this is a sort of single user license and you've already used this key 3 times to install on 3 different computers, so you no longer get to use it, stuff like that. And especially with my approach of sometimes randomly upgrading my machine a little, you know, adding just a new piece of hardware, reinstalling the OS and such. I've had trouble with that kind of DRM before, where the computer is essentially the same, except for maybe a new processor or a new fan or whatever, just a single piece of hardware changed. But that would change the setup, and basically the software wouldn't accept that this is still technically the same computer, because you could argue that technically it's not. So, and I don't remember what game it was. Some game that I'd actually bought on CD that didn't have Steam DRM, some third-party DRM. And anyway, so I basically had that problem where it said you've already used this key 3 times, and I couldn't use it anymore. Contacted the support and they said, yep, well, you're gonna have to buy the game again. We we don't care about your explanation. Basically, you've installed the game 3 times, and I don't know, I'm not buying anything from that developer anymore. I don't think they're even in business anymore, I don't know. But yeah, they pretty aggressively implied that I was illegally trying to install the game that I borrowed from a friend, because their records indicated that the key had already been used multiple times, and no one would ever change their hardware 3 times in 2 years, or something like that. I don't know. Okay, this looks like the end. That was anticlimactic. Let's see if there's more. There is. Somewhat. Okay. So again, just a little side dungeon yielding some stuff. Let's check the ornate chests. I've always been very tempted to install a mod that makes these chests give better loot. Not the sort of these ones, the medium-sized ones, but the ornate and the boss chests and such. I believe most of the boss chests are actually, I don't know if it's a glitch or intentional, but there is a spawn class which basically says boss chest. Essentially, spawn class is what gets called when you open the container. So there is a certain type of container defined in the game that's a boss chest. But most chests that are labeled boss chests don't actually call that container type, basically. So when you open most boss chests, it doesn't say, you know, give me loot for a boss chest, it says give me loot for an ornate chest. And I think it's actually worse loot than a boss chest is supposed to give. But even then, boss chests are a little, I don't know, disappointing. You just, well, it tends to be lame stuff. Sometimes you get a skull, but mostly it's just blue items, and I don't think I've gotten uniques once or twice, but rarely, so eh. As I've explained, a little disappointing. There is a mod which changes that. It essentially, let me put the map maybe here. It's not really a good point, a good place to put it, I think. Oh yeah, there is a mod which changes the loot you get from boss chests. I don't know, especially for an LP, I don't like installing mods that change the gameplay a whole lot. Something like the Synergies mod, which is a complete you know, work over of the entire game. That I might do. I think this is a dungeon I have to go to for the main quest, so I won't bother going in just yet. And again, note that the teleport cannot take me down here, even though that's an accessible path, but it essentially decides, nope, that would take too long to walk. So you have to still, even using teleport, sometimes take the long way. I also quite like these Varkolin, these little guys we've already encountered a few times. The problem is that enemies are rather aggressive in the game, as you might have noticed. So it's difficult to just get a clean shot of them not moving around and all that. Should I do the fishing? I somehow doubt you really want to see the fishing. It's sort of boring, and I already have a permanent transformation on my pet. It's permanently a war beast. I pulled that out of my shared stash, by the way. As I said, didn't do much fishing on this character. So the permanent transformation came from a different character. Oh, here we are. Main quest stuff, a robot eye.
What do you want? You want through this door? Well, it's not going to be as simple as that. Everything has a price. You must know that, right? If you can solve a problem for us, we will solve a problem for you. This, the green.
Okay.
You have a new quest.
So to continue with this quest, we have to get a crown from the Forgotten Halls. That's the place we've been to up there. As I've explained, would have been a little futile going in there for the side quest now, because we still have to go in there for the main quest. But there's a few other things I also still require in this area. Still have the follow-up quest to the Cackle Spit thing, where she gave us those really, really terrible rewards. And also you might have noticed we found some crystals already, but we're still missing one. We found electric, poison and fire, so ice is still missing. And that also gives us access to a side dungeon, which is... it's kind of a cool side dungeon, and somewhat interesting. But here's some altars, so to activate those. And talk to Fade. And he knows how to get to Cacklespit's realm, but Fade, rather, this guy, he wants us to fetch something for him first, which it would be 4 Skulls of Warriors. Obviously it couldn't just be, yeah, I know where to go, just follow this road. It's obviously going to be, I want something in return. I hope you'll forgive me if I don't go into this Netherrealm portal, but yeah. If I weren't already max level, I would go in. But, well, I am, so... there's not much to be gained from it, basically. Skull of Erish, something. I'm just tempted to... is Bloodsteam a set? It is. I'm just tempted to pronounce it the German way, which would be Erich, but probably not what they were going for. These Varkolin are basically sort of humanoid bats, which I like the idea, and they are fairly cool enemies. Though there's one type of them that's actually really annoying. brutes. Not the brutes themselves, but the boss versions of the brutes. Champion versions, I think, is what the game refers to them. Because most mobs in the game can also spawn as a champion version. You know, you've basically seen those. They're the ones with the purple writing, better loot, higher health. And the Valkyrian brutes, if they spawn as champions, they have an additional really high damage ability that on higher difficulties, and if you're not really well equipped, tends to just one-hit you. Or close to it. It's really, really powerful. I'm not certain if that's what they were going for, but it's somewhat reminiscent of the lightning attack. The glitched lightning attack on the Dark Zealots in Torchlight 1. Which just did obscenely large amounts of damage. Let's go for the set piece. And then enter Cacklespit's realm. I'm drinking some coffee along the side, by the way. Hope that's okay. There we go. So, in this area it's important to destroy all the tree trunks. Because this is where we get the final robot piece. It's a randomly generated area, so the tree trunks won't always be in the same locations. But essentially, if you want the final robot piece, you will need all the trunks to be destroyed. Oh, there's the boss. They can teleport, which makes it a little difficult to track them sometimes. Okay, that's just a bit of advice for the boss fight, but obviously we want to go around this place and find tree trunks first. Oh, and a chest as well. I think there's 6 in total, at least I seem to recall that, and I believe this is where we'll then be able to make the way across once it's activated. That's another trunk. But we're still missing at least one more, probably more. I did hear a strange sound. Might be that was the last one. We'll do the rounds anyway, just to make sure. And up here. Okay, I hope you're alright with me, you know, doing this to get back. Okay, it really doesn't work well on these paths. There we go. And this now turns into a walkable path, which we can cross to get the final robot part. Yeah, 5 pieces, that's how many there are. It doesn't really give us any sort of confirmation that we're done, but we are. Yeah. Doesn't work at all on these paths. Anyway. Let's go fight Cacklespit, and Fate has just told us that she would probably be impossible or next to impossible to defeat as long as her champions are alive, and those would be these swamp golems, and she might have different ones, but essentially as long as these bosses are alive she cannot be hurt. But she can be hurt once those are not alive anymore. We got boss chest, probably not going to contain anything good, but yeah. That would be that, pretty much dealt with. I'll take a waypoint portal to the Imperial camp. I don't know if at this point I can already finish the robot quest. Might be I have to actually wait for the end of the act. I just don't know. Yeah, I do. So I might as well just walk back now. But those are all the pieces, and I will be able to finish the quest. I believe I have to actually completely finish Act 3, and before going into the final act, I will be able to continue along that quest line. Which actually, on your first playthrough, I would highly recommend doing it. Later playthroughs, not so much. But the reward includes I think it's definitely guaranteed unique. It might even be a guaranteed set piece. Unique set piece, that would be. And the unique sets tend to be much better than the rare sets, the blue ones. And also on your first playthrough, assuming you didn't do any excess leveling, you can also get pretty much guaranteed 3 full level ups, or at least very close to it, from the quest reward, so it gives a ton of experience. I know my first time I did get 3 level ups from it. It might be, if you've just had a level up, it might be, oh darn, I hit this one. Essentially, you're dealing with constantly rising lava.
I am wounded.
And that happens.
Your pet
Lose 6.7 million gold. That sounds fun.
Your pet has fled.
Essentially, if you're really, really fast, which that would involve doing this a whole lot, you can get a lot of chests from this, but I really, really don't like this area. Just because you're on such a tight timing, and as soon as you touch the lava, you're dead. It doesn't matter how much fire resistance you have or how much fire armor you've stacked, you're just dead. As you could see. Okay, I'm still missing one of the crystals, and I have not found the... Can I put it here, maybe? It really depends which part of the map you're on. Which side of the screen you want the map to be on. So if you're basically... If you are moving to the left a lot, you want it on the right, as it is now, and if I'm moving to the right a lot, I want it on the left. I mean, there's nothing the developers could have done about that. It's just sort of partly my OCD, partly just the fact that it is a limited monitor size. I can't really think of a good solution for that. I mean, sometimes when you encounter a problem in a game, something that seems inconvenient, sort of obvious solution comes to mind. Just something along the lines of, why didn't they just do this and that? That would have been so much better. But in this case, it really isn't much. I mean, they did give a bunch of options as to where you could place the map, and there's just not one ideal position. And they've already somewhat tried to lessen that problem. If you notice, if I put the map here or here, it's actually cut off, so it doesn't go all the way over the screen, even if it could, basically. I mean, the map does go on in that direction a little bit, but it doesn't actually display it. Trying to keep out of the way as much as possible, basically. Entered the downfalls. We're still missing one crystal and the golden chest. There's also a mod which makes golden chests give better loot, because, quite frankly, golden chests are terrible. I mean, I do go for them, just for the sake of novelty, and if I found the golden key, it seems like a waste not to use it. Okay, you know what, I'll put it up there for the moment. But I have very rarely gotten good stuff from the golden chest. You get a bunch of gold, and I think a fairly good chance at getting reasonable amounts of low-level ember, as in just the normal elemental one, the no, you know, the spark embers and ice embers and all that. But I don't know, considering how much trouble it is, relatively speaking, to get to the golden chest. I mean, you have to find the bitter sprite, you have to find the golden chest, you have to kill the bitter sprite, all that stuff. I don't know, considering all that, it seems like the loot is lacking.
It's a trap.
And it can be trapped as well, but you see this, it's like some gold and the rest is completely useless. Just not worth it, in my opinion. Which is again why I was tempted to install that mod, which gives them better loot, but I like the idea that maybe people sort of play along or just want to play the game as I'm playing it. And while at this point it's not likely, there's always that chance that, you know, the mod developer decides, okay, I'm not making this public anymore, I'm taking this down, or I'm changing this so it actually does even more, or it does less now. Now with the camera distance and the render distance thing, it's my convenience to play this way, because it allows me to see enemies at a greater distance and sort of react to them better. But you could play pretty much the same way without it. It's not... It doesn't affect gameplay very much. Wow, I don't know what's happening with frame rates right now. I mean, I know what's happening, I don't know why it's happening, basically. They are a little low. Alright, I'm now entering this center section here, which is what we were collecting the crystals for. But yeah, just in case someone wants to play sort of the same way I do, I don't know why they would, but you never know. Too many gameplay changing mods would be making that difficult potentially, because it's always the case with community-based mod making like that, you know, the mod maker just sort of doesn't have time anymore to maintain his mod or whatever, and an update breaks it, and then sort of out of luck. Anyway, adding these four crystals opens the center gate to... Come on, don't leave me hanging now. It takes so long to open this door. To the Elemental Oasis. I didn't want to spoil the name before actually entering, but as I've just noticed, this is already a super long episode, or rather fairly long. So, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.